All right. So here we are, another week. Man, time flies, especially as you start to get older. Time just fucking flies, no doubt. So, um, so we're gonna do a little market prep for the upcoming week. It's, it's April 19th, 2026. It's approximately 3:30 Mountain Time. The Asia Monday session opens up at in a half hour, 29 minutes. And let's pull up this 30-minute chart. Let me just hide some things that are kind of distracting here for the moment. We'll get rid of this deep print. Let's keep deep print. There we go. Order flow values. Okay, so here's what we can see. Right, these are daily profiles. These are ETH profiles, so it's taking into consider all sessions. We essentially had 2 days where we consolidated before grinding up, made higher high, actually dropped back down. All right, swept the lows of this previous day or this range, right, before taking off and making a huge run up to the top. So ultimately 25,000 is kind of an important level for support right now. Tried to break below it and there was responsive buying, sending the price back up. So there's still some repair to be done down here at the bottom of the range, but not for now. If we look, and here we have a small imbalance that is yet to be repaired. And that's all the way down at 23,650 or something like that. And same thing here. There's a small little balance that we've yet to repair. And there's more up here, right? All of this area. And there's another one right here. And so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all of it, but you get the idea. There's some repair to be done to the downside. Even up here, there's a lot of it. Like all of this essentially has been unmitigated. So there's a lot of room. So this stuff we're not going to see for a while. So this is our current situation. More heavy buying pressure, followed by a small pause before another impulse up, and a small pause before another impulse up. These are 30-minute candles. And another pause before multiple impulses up, for another pause before more accumulation, and so on and so forth. So we just keep extending to the upside. And you can see these ranges here for the next extension starting to get smaller than the previous, but doesn't mean it's over. Okay, so just from a price action standpoint, we are continuing to make higher highs, all-time highs, etc. Just give me a moment. I need to go have something on the oven. All right, so you can see what happened. It's clear we're trending up. Let's look at maybe some variables and reasons why. And you can see we have this real strong trend line, right? We tried to break through it, but the truth is we just continue to hold it and move higher and higher and higher and higher. And we've created significant value here at the top. So maybe this is where sellers are starting to step back in. This might be where we start to find a correction, but there's no guarantee, right? We need proof before we start to get bearish. But man, am I bearish in my mind without that's just my feelings, which don't matter. So we're gonna look at the COT report. This is through Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday obviously trended up higher. And what we can see is non-commercial, commercial, and non-reportable. We won't really focus on the non-reportables. It's a pretty small group in comparison. So non-commercial, I guess there's still some numbers there. I think it still matters maybe. What we can see is open interest increased from last week, 32,000 contracts, and price went up. So somebody was stepping in and buying, right? Because that was as of Tuesday. So through Tuesday close. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it just kept getting bought up. So open interest probably increased again after the report. So I would assume to see an more higher open interest in next week's report. Non-commercial are short. More so than long. You see 348K to 233K. Commercials are slightly long compared to short. So there's still more shorts than longs out there. But in total, looks like there's more shorts than longs. Non-reportables far more long, like retail, long than short. Okay, so from a color standpoint, non-commercial is more short. So large speculators, commercial is fairly slightly skewed to the long side. Non-reportable slightly skewed to the long side. So these large speculators, yeah, they got kind of worked, right? We can see from a week to week standpoint, commercials longs opened up. So we're increasing the longs, the non-reporting slight increase in long exposure, and non-commercials are increased exposure to the short side. Well, these non-commercial speculators essentially got wrecked this week. So it's kind of what we're looking at just from the report. Let's go into Excalidraw. So here's our general overview of the week. Coming into the week, NASDAQ remains in a higher price discovery and is extending after a persistent move higher without a meaningful pullback. So let's just look at that on the chart. We have not had a meaningful pullback in a very long time. See, we came up, just consolidated, retested the low of the value area before consolidating higher, retested the low of the value area before consolidating higher, and lots of room to pull back. All right, 50% would be 25,000. So maybe all the way up to, so we could likely pull back somewhere into here, right? That would be a pullback that would be fairly normal and natural. Do we see that this week? Well, let's continue to read. The main background variables for the week are Iran US escalation, which is uncertain, and there's a lot of misinformation that there's a deal, there's not a deal. They're coming to meet again in Pakistan on Monday, I believe, but both sides are pretty much hunkering down and trying to get some leverage going into the negotiations. So if you haven't been following it, maybe catch up. We're not going to go into too much detail. Now, earnings seasons, companies are posting strong earnings, which is kind of holding the market up in this time of uncertainty. We think a lot of investors probably bought the dips. And so the fundamentals for a lot of the companies are looking pretty good. I don't know if, anyways, that's what it shows. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think the earnings are a little inflated because I think a lot of the Mag 7 are passing money back and forth to each other with deals and partnerships and things. And it's not a lot of consumer related income, but I guess business to business income is still income. So, but it feels like they're just passing money back and forth just to make everybody continue to look like they're growing and moving. COT positioning backdrop, we just talked about that, right? So the commitment of traders. Non-commercials are short, commercials are generally maybe hedging or holding more long exposure. Maybe they have short exposure in something else. Maybe they moved their, yeah, who knows? But we have some references that we're going to be looking at. The all-time high on to the upside, 26,000, 25,600, and some other levels. But we definitely need some evidence of directional control through acceptance or rejection to determine the continuation or failure. So we'll be looking at those levels to see what happens at those levels in those events. NQ is it's definitely going higher into discovery and hasn't stopped, right? Um, we haven't had the pullback, and again, I already talked about all the key levels, so this is all of the stuff. So we need evidence and above the all-time high, maybe continue higher into price discovery. There at the all-time high might open the door to lower rotations, maybe profit taking with some news. And if we hold 26,000, higher auction might stay intact below 26,000. So where do we have 26K? Right here. Here's our 26,000. It's like a 30% retracement. It's also like the value area low and a little consolidation area. So yeah, this is definitely an area that we can retrace to. All right, I'll be right back. Just one moment, y'all. Sorry. Morning food and shit. All right, so that's our play, right? So, um, going back and looking at our, so we're gonna put a red line here, and that's the all-time high zone. I would anticipate we're gonna retest, all right, or maybe come down to this trend line or value area low VWAP from Friday. Down in this area where I have this green line. Uh, we'll see how we hold, or maybe we just consolidate in this range for a while. We break through this VWAP and start to make our way down. As mentioned, we might find our way into this previous consolidation range of value, right, which I have marked in red here. So if we break through this VWAP, I might take it back down to this value area high, 26,500, all the way down to shit. The next area might be 26,000. So definitely some levels to look at. Um, so we did essentially, we came up, came back to retest the value area low, came back up, retested the value area low, came back into value, consolidated a little bit longer before moving back up. So I would anticipate this level right here, this 26,500. Just annotate that a little differently. That's really the level that I'm kind of looking at. I also see we have this shelf, right, where we created a base, which is also the value area high for the Thursday, previous day. And then we extend it up. So I'm expecting that if we drop down, you could see a retracement all the way down to this 26,500 level. If I change the fib, That's a pretty deep retracement. It's like 80% retracement. That seems the most logical to me. So regardless, that's kind of our outlook. We're in an uptrend until proven otherwise. So we have to respect the fact that we're continuing to move higher into price discovery to find a place where buyers and sellers can transact for time within volume. And this might be the area. Maybe we just do some back and forth here until we get some news from Orange Man. So we shall see. So that's it. So the market opens up in 8 minutes. Let's see what happens. We'll kind of just hang out and see what happens. Move to a 5 minute chart. Gives us a different look. So up top here, it says we had buyers absorbed, or it could be obviously we had some shorts. Those could be buy stops, right? That got triggered. So, or aggressive buyers being absorbed by passive sellers, or a combination thereof. So, really don't know exactly, but we do know these are like one entity is putting in very large numbers of orders in a small amount of time, maybe not necessarily at one time. So, right here, there's over 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9, almost 1,000 orders, buy orders there at the top. And they all happen in the wick of this candle. Now, what we can see here, out of all these candles, this one had the most delta, meaning the most aggressive selling, and it had the most volume. So this candle, until we got to this candle. Now this candle is a deeper purple, meaning more aggressive selling, as well as lots of volume. This was at 1:20 Eastern time on Friday, I believe. So this candle, more specifically in this area, all right, let's put a volume profile on there. Let's see if we can see exactly where it is. Right here, all right? So let's dial that in. Let's make it here to here. So that's where we had lots of selling pressure. Then later on down the road, 355, after the market was closed, we had some more buying right here, significant. So we're going to make that green just so that we know that that was where buyers stepped in, and that's where sellers. So then we'll change this to a 20 range chart, or 21 range, since it's convenient in there for us. And why it does that, man? It's just stupid. Like turns into this tiny ass. All right. Doesn't make a lot of sense with the 20 range because it was New York session. So we'll come back to, for the moment, come back to a 40 range just because we're going to be able to see the swings better. Oh my God. That really fucking drives me. Chaps my butt. You don't have to like reset it like that. So pretty ugly. Let's see where lots of action has transpired. So pretty happy with this. Um, there were buyers here before. Question is, are they still here? We'll know in a few minutes. So be back in a couple minutes and we'll see what's up.
All right, so we had a gap down. Let's go back to our 30-minute chart. Almost to that level. So we're going to pay attention down here at this level. And it may be an area to get back in long. But what we're seeing is from the close, let's call it about the point of control, price opened up nearly 277 points lower. So let me see if I can open my portfolio here. I don't know why that portfolio manager doesn't open up. It's really confusing. See, maybe if it's somewhere. See, it shows here. Maximize. There we go. All right, so here are our accounts. Um, this one is blown. We passed 25. We have 3 funded accounts. We're a little underwater on the 300K. And our balance, we're a little bit into drawdown on our other performance accounts as well. So we're going to be focusing on this evaluation. We're at 52,384. That's going to be our focus for this overnight session. Make that bigger so it's just easier to see. Coming back into our 30-minute chart. Price is already making a move back up, but I'm going to stay out of it. And let things settle a little bit. Plus, we haven't hit our level yet, right? We're still not at our key level. So we have a 124 point range in the opening. So 0.5% range in the opening. So one NQ contract would be like $2,480 of movement on a $20 contract going 124 points. That's crazy. So we stay on the 30-minute chart until we can establish information and we hit and have an event at one of the levels that we specified. Now let's just take a look at I got another thing here. Man, I really hate this DX trade profile. So this is Tradified Crypto. So we actually got stopped out here on a trade. So we're down at like $50. So it's an overnight swing trade. We hit this level where I essentially decided to get out of the trade. So Bitcoin is opening up down as well. And after a failed breakout, it's returning to this consolidation zone right here. So I'll hold off on getting into another position at the moment. And crypto's tough. I have a real hard time with crypto. Um, that's what's happened on the crypto markets. And on the 30, we essentially tapped in to this range right here before rejecting. So the open is pretty spread out. Kind of strange. So we're starting to reach the area where price opened up for this session. Changing it to a 5 minute. Okay, so on the 40 range, we opened up here, all right, at 1800. right here. All right, so not a ton of heavy volume trading right now. So I would say that everything that we're seeing is pretty much inconsequential and not necessarily an indication of what's going to happen in the morning. So generally for this period, I'm gonna have my deep trade set up at trades of 30 or higher because that's significant. This is more, oh, man, that fucking drives me crazy. I swear to God. There was one thing that like tilts me. It's having to redraw. Okay, so this is actually significant. 90, 60. So I take that back. 60 and 90 are significant numbers. Let's change this. I like to filter out the noise. So you want to make the filter as big as possible to where you're still seeing important data. And there we go again. Let's fucking resize. Sweet. Even though all I did was change the value of the aggressive trade bubbles, the whole thing has to resize. That makes no sense to me. All right, shit. So sellers got absorbed right here. Or excuse me, sellers stepped in, pushed the price down. Buyers stepped back in to push the price up. You see there's some significant buying volume in these three candles right here. So there's passive interest down at this price level. You can see buyers step back in again, push the price back up higher. These buyers are starting to get rewarded. They get rewarded again before price comes back down to test the open, holding above the open. We're starting to make lower highs, and I guess we could do it from here. Higher lows. So we'll look for some small MNQ scalp opportunities, but I just don't really see anything yet that interests me. Again, this was our Sunday open. Add a daily volume profile, put the VWAP on there with bands. So we opened, drop down, second standard deviation of the VWAP band. Had a pretty aggressive buying effort that lasted about 3 minutes. So all this buying was in 3 minutes. So we're looking at 120 points in 3 minutes. Crazy. Now we're consolidating in this range. So we'll use this range that we have highlighted in red as our guide. You can see that we have this higher high, higher low thing going on. So we're kind of right in the middle of that range. We're in the golden pocket of that range. If I put another, you can kind of see where we're at. Right in the pocket. So what we're looking for is to break out of this range, this red area. Before we make a decision. Another possibility is returning. So we created this range, broke out of it, came back in, tested it, but we really didn't retrace too far into it before holding our opening range, and we're also holding the VWAP right now. So we're still looking bullish or for movement to the upside. So we're above the point of control for the session. Still in the heart of this range. So I don't think there's much going on. What I'm going to likely do is just close out the stream
and just gonna kind of watch the market in the background, play some video games, have some fun. And if we break out of this zone, I'm likely to take a long back up towards the high. And if we break below this zone, I'm likely to get into a short that I'm going to try to hold. I don't know for how long, but maybe until we find this is our Friday action. Kind of feel like we would come back to test this shelf, but we didn't really get close to it. So I don't know. So that was a really big gap to the upside. All right, well, happy trading, y'all. Um, best of luck. Looks like we're getting some downward pressure. Maybe we'll hang out for a second here. No, it's just consolidating in the middle of that range. There's nothing going on. Back to the POC. So, yeah, y'all have a good trading week. Be smart. And I'm going to leave you with this. Before you place a trade, think about this. Remember, you're risking hard-earned money and limited time resources. If and when you are wrong, how much can you accept losing? So always keep that in mind, right? Whenever you enter a trade, think about, okay, I could lose this hard-earned money. I could lose the time that I invested to make that hard-earned money. And then I can lose my time again by sitting and watching this trade. And so you can lose twice, right? You can lose your time twice. You can lose your time to make the money, then you can use your time to try to make more money with that money. Okay? So make sure you're smart. So you could lose twice. All right? And with that,